Hey everyone, my name is Eric Hopkins, aka Joe. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, I've gone back and forth on this many times in my mind over the last few weeks, deciding whether or not I wanted to start a political playlist here on my channel. Obviously, I've been doing a little bit of political talk with my friends Brandon and Miranda, the Spoobies, over on the Dragon's Den podcast. We're not always going to talk politics there, but they may come up there. But I never really thought I was going to be doing a political playlist with just me going over politics because I understand that not everybody wants to hear about them. But I promise that I will not be talking about them in my other videos. They will be marked clearly as political, and they'll be in a political section. So if you don't want to watch them, you don't have to click on them. I totally understand, and you don't have to agree with me either. I fully understand not everybody agrees with me, but I'm going to give you my honest opinions and what I believe is objective truth. I will definitely not be just throwing out rumors around there if I can't verify what's true and what is real. I'm going to be doing the research, and I will show you, just like I'm about to here in a few minutes, what we're about to talk about. So if you don't agree with me, that's perfectly fine. I just ask that you're civil, and if you're in the comments section, by all means, be respectful to me and others. Otherwise, I will block you. End of story. I will not, tolerate that sort of discourse. Okay, so but again, if I show you the facts and you want to stick your head in the sand, I mean, that's your choice, I suppose. But I hate to tell you, I'm going to show you the hard truth. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give a big old red pill to you here in a little bit. So stick with this. Now, the reason why I'm going to do this video today is because of the fact that over St. Patrick's Day weekend here, Donald Trump held a rally in Dayton, Ohio, I believe. And I guess he used the term bloodbath. And now the media, the mainstream media all over the news is going crazy. And they're, talking about how he's, got this violent rhetoric and he's calling for political violence. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. But before we do that, I want to set the stage here. Okay. This is what I would call one of the many, many hoaxes against Donald Trump. There's been many, many that's been perpetuated by the media and the Democrats for years. And I'm about to show you proof of that. Okay. A couple of them were obviously the Russia collusion hoax, the PP tape, you name it. There's been many of them over the years. And I'm going to show you, I think, 4 examples of those that have been lied about over the years here. And here's the first one. The infamous, there are very fine people on both sides hoax that Joe Biden, the Democrats, everybody continued to perpetuate here to make him sound like he's a Nazi sympathizer because he's white supremacist, blah, 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 blah. Not true. All right. This is the sort of headlines that were taken and presented after the Charlottesville riot, and the Daily News here reporting the sympathy for the devils. Trump defends very fine people at Nazi rally. But that is not what happened. Okay. Again, the media loves to take things out of context. They love to clip videos, edit them, and then present them as if they're fact when you don't have the full truth. And this is what Trump actually said in full context from the Charlottesville riot speech he gave at the time. It wasn't years later. It wasn't months later. It was right there after it happened. Okay, that people were trying to tear down statues, get rid of history, and we had, all sorts of things going on. And here's what he had to say about that.
That were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me.
And that's where they cut
I
and
saw
edited.
the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
There it is.
But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely
people who just
unfairly.
wanted to preserve our history.
In the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
Exactly. So, I mean, again, like right there. I mean, he flat out said in the speech, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. But the media, for I don't know how many years now, have been perpetuating this lie. Joe Biden has said on numerous occasions and will continue to say it throughout the 2024 election that the reason why he ran for president was because of this rhetoric from Donald Trump that was talking about how there was fine people, including the Nazis. That is not what Donald Trump said. Joe Biden is lying to you, and the Democrats have been pushing this lie for years. So that right there is example number one of how they lie to you. Here's example number two. A lot of people love to talk about how Donald Trump mocked a disabled person. Okay. He did not do that. If you look at other times, he's used this exact same motion and the exact same sound. He's mocking fully abled people. Okay. So when he did it to the time that they said that he was mocking a disabled person, that's not what he was doing. Let's watch this video and I'll show you the context of every other time he's done it.
You see the president of the bank, I mentioned the word regulator. These guys come in, they run the banks. And I watched a general recently on television, and they said to him, what do you think about ISIS? Oh, ISIS is very tough. And I'm saying, first of all, why is a general on television? I don't want my generals on television.
I heard Ted's a good debater. I said he is
Ted
a good
Cruz.
debater, but he can't talk, okay? Bad talker. He's a good debater, bad talker. So he's over here. They asked him about waterboarding. They said, Senator Cruz, what do you think of waterboarding? I don't want to talk about it. You know, he didn't want to talk about waterboarding because too controversial. And I'm saying to myself, they're chopping off heads. He doesn't want to talk about waterboarding.
A couple of good paragraphs, and talking about northern New Jersey draws the prober's eye. Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said.
And that's the one they like to clip.
He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said. This is 14 years ago.
Okay. So when they normally do this with Donald Trump, they're trying to say he's doing it against a disabled person. They take that one little clip, that one little snippet where he's doing this motion, okay? But when he does this, he's talking about incompetent people, okay? He's not talking about someone who's got a disability. But they like to say that so they can paint him as this evil human being, but he's not, okay? Here's another one. The Atlantic. A lot of you have heard about Donald Trump called veterans of the World War I war in France suckers and losers, or American soldiers as well. Suckers and losers, okay? Well, this came from The Atlantic. It is a left-leaning source or reporting organization. And of course, the very first line of the report says, sources told The Atlantic that the president has repeatedly disparaged intelligence of service members and so on and so forth. Sources told. Who were the sources? To this day, this was written back in 2020. To this day, we still don't know who these supposed sources are who claimed that Donald Trump said this. But yet we've got upwards of, I think, 19 people who were actually there by name have come out and said that what this report says about him calling soldiers suckers and losers is not true. It never happened. We have the names. I mean, I don't have them right now, but you can look them up. They are out there. And even if you click down here, it goes on about how, the helicopter couldn't fly due to the weather. He wanted to drive there, but Secret Service wouldn't drive him there. And not only that, if he didn't want to go honor the service members at the cemetery, why did he go back later? He was there after that, but they want to act like it, never happened. So, and again, even further down, it says sources told The Atlantic. You can't just read something, and if a source said, well, you should look into who that source was. And if you can't find the answer, maybe, just maybe, it didn't happen. And it's a lie to try to smear someone. Here's another one of the more famous ones. Cassidy Hutchinson, at the January 6th committee hearings, tries to say that Donald Trump tried to lean into the front seat of the beast to take control of the steering wheel to steer it toward the January 6th riot at the Capitol because he wanted to be there with his supporters. Well, here's Cassidy Hutchinson, who supposedly knows information here, testifying in front of the committee. Let's listen to what she has to say.
Response to that, Tony described him as being irate. The president said something to the effect of, I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now. To which Bobby responded, sir, we have to go back to the West Wing. The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Renato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
And was Mr. Engel in the room?
Oh,
as
Liz
Mr.
Cheney's a
Ornato
real piece
told
of
you
work,
this
too.
story?
He was.
Did Mr.
All right,
Response to that.
so again, that was the testimony that Cassidy Hutchinson gave. Well, guess what? They love to tell these stories with the knowledge, knowing that most people are not going to, look back into that, and they're just going to believe it as fact and move on with their lives if they look into it at all, because a lot of people just don't care about politics, And I used to be the same way until I started seeing the absolute corruption that's going on in our country. Well, here is an excerpt from the transcript of the driver, the Secret Service agent who was driving the beast that day. He said, quote, "I did not see him reach," the Secret Service driver told investigators for the House panel. "He never grabbed the steering wheel. I didn't see him, lunge to try to get into the front seat at all. What stood out was the irritation in his voice more than his physical presence." The driver's transcript adds detail to one of the most scrutinized episodes of January 6, 2021. The transcript was never released publicly by the January 6th House Committee. Gee, I wonder why. The so-called bipartisan January 6th Committee that Nancy Pelosi put together, which had a bunch of rhino Republicans on it, which are basically Republicans who are in name only. They're Democrats that are posing as Republicans. We got way too many of those in Congress and in government in general. That's why we've got a bunch of America First Republicans now starting to push back on this, like Donald Trump, like your Marjorie Taylor Greens, like your, Matt Gaetz. We've got a bunch of them now. Vivek Ramaswamy. We've got a bunch who are now trying to actually finally get away from the old Republican Party that are do-nothing Republicans who only want to side with Democrats. That's how we get nothing done. Okay, so this right here, and of course, the January 6th committee had this information. They knew about it, and they chose not to report it. They chose to suppress it. And I believe there was even reports that they tried to delete the evidence if they didn't. So, I mean, they had all this, and yet they trotted out Cassidy Hutchinson here with their crocodile tears, trying to act like, and first of all, they like to say that Donald Trump could barely walk down a ramp. He's too old and feeble. He can't walk down a ramp, but yet he could be John Wick or James Bond and start taking on Secret Service agents to try to take over this car. You got to be a nincompoop to actually believe this stuff. I mean, come on, guys. All right. So I say all that to say this weekend, like I said, Donald Trump gave a speech and was talking about, the auto industry and stuff like that. And was describing the economic turmoil that could happen and called it a potential bloodbath. But of course they heard the word bloodbath, and the media started to just lose their minds and started screaming to the hills. Here's a few of the headlines that were released by NBC News. Trump says there will be a bloodbath if he loses election. Talk about misleading and disinformation. Okay, they're right there. If someone reads that, they're going to be like, "Oh, wow, he's a terrible human being." They worded that way on purpose. This is how they do things, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Times, Trump says some migrants are not people and predicts a bloodbath if he loses. I'll get into that in a second, too. Trump says, CNBC, that there will be bloodbath if he doesn't get elected in November as he campaigns. CNN at least tries to tell a little bit of truth here. Trump warns of bloodbath for auto industry and country if he loses the election. See how they added "and the country"? Oh, he's a dictator now. You got to be careful. NDTV, Donald Trump warns of bloodbath if he's not elected. Joe Biden then also responded to his supposed hateful rhetoric, because Joe Biden's too much of an idiot to know what Trump is talking about here. Because again, he's probably being shown these. Oh, well, no, he's probably perpetuating this just as much as the rest of them. I'm not going to give him any slack here, okay? But these people, they will lie to your face and then sleep soundly at night. But don't take my word for it. Here is what Donald Trump said in full context. This was from his speech where that portion came up. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Mexico has taken, over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it, went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine.
Okay, so see what happened there? They took what he said completely out of context. There's going to be a bloodbath if I don't win in November, insinuating he's going to become a huge dictator. He's going to try to overthrow the government again or something like that, which he never tried to do the first time, by the way. But again, look how misleading these people are. I mean, this is insane. And they also going on about how he called immigrants, he doesn't classify them as people. Here's what he said in full context in regard to that statement too.
Unbelievable when I see it going. But I got to know all these people. They're very smart, very streetwise. And I would do the same thing. If I had prisons that were teeming with MS-13 and all sorts of people that they've got to take care of for the next 50 years, right? Young people, they're in jail for years. And if you call them people, I don't know if you call them people. In some cases, they're not people, in my opinion. But I'm not allowed to say that because the radical left says that's a terrible thing to say. They say you have to vote against him because did you hear what he said about humanity? I've seen the humanity, and these are bad. These are animals, okay? And we have to stop it. We can't have another Lakin. We have so many people. We have so many people being hurt so badly and being killed. They're sending their prisoners to see us. They're bringing them right to the border, and they're dropping them off, and we're allowing them to come in. And these are tougher than anybody we've got in the country. These are hardened criminals, and we've got hundreds of thousands of them. And we're not going to take it. We're just not.
Okay, so again, when he says they're not people, okay, he's not talking about the asylum seekers, which there are some of those. Do not get me wrong, okay? But when he is talking about poisoning the blood of the country, or when he's talking about these are not people, he's talking about the gang members, the rapists, the serial killers, the drug runners, all these cannibals in Haiti right now. These are not, they're human beings, yes, but they're not, they're animals, okay? This should not be controversial here, okay? They are not normal human beings. There are certain people who are trying to seek asylum, absolutely. But there's also a lot of these people who come to our border because we're not vetting them right now. We're not vetting them properly. They're coming to the border and claiming and say they're seeking asylum with no proof of that, and now are getting into our country and they're murdering people like Laken Riley. How did that go for her? Donald Trump is not saying that we should not allow immigrants into the country because he's racist or xenophobic or a bigot or whatever it might be. He's saying we've got to be safe. And this is 100% absolutely right. There, whether you like to admit it or not, the left and the Democrats like to try to say we're all people, we're all one human race, we should all be treated equally. I'm sorry, I don't think we should be treating rapists and murderers and drug runners, sex slave owners and smugglers. I don't think we should be treating them the same as everybody else. Do you? I mean, honestly, ask yourself that. I mean, am I off base here? Those people should be, and I know there's been talk of, bringing back the death penalty for people like this. Yeah, this isn't rocket science, people. These people are continuing to do this sort of thing because there are no consequences. Look at the crime in New York City right now. People shoving people on the subway tracks. It's happening because there's no consequences because they get let out the next day on bond and they just could turn right around and do the same thing again. That's what happened to Laken Riley's killer. Was caught for theft, was released, and then went to Georgia, tried to rape her. She fought back. The nerve of her to do that, by the way. And he fought her and murdered her. I mean, these people, as much as you want to show love to these people, and I commend you for being loving and caring. That's great. But you've got to understand, these people do not care about you. They would murder you if you gave them the chance. And these are the type of people Donald Trump's talking about, and he's absolutely correct. All right, let's move on to these are again more of the same. Okay, that was the same one. More of the same, article headlines. Look at this. Politico. Trump says country faces bloodbath if Biden wins in November. Rolling Stone. Trump says there will be bloodbath and elections will end if he isn't reelected. Because of some of the same stuff that the Democrats are trying to say about Donald Trump, Joe Biden's doing. Okay, you want to look at dictator and fascist type policies and things that are going into effect right now? Joe Biden's doing it. But they've got you all too focused on Donald Trump possibly being a dictator. You've got your blinders on to what Biden's actually doing. You can look all that stuff up as well. Just compare what actual dictators do and look at some of the stuff that Joe Biden's actually done, and then compare the two. Bloodbath for whole country. Trump warns if he loses U.S. presidential election. Trump declares there'll be bloodbath for auto industry. Again, at least the Daily Beast is trying to get some of that in there. So, and that was an actual headline. So that's good. But again, how many of those were misleading at best? But and there was a couple that had the truth in there. Hopefully, if you clicked on those, at least they'd have some of the truth in there. But a lot of them don't. Look at this. MSNBC on their official X page wrote, Trump says there will be bloodbath if he loses election. And of course, one of the reasons why the left and the Democrats do not like X now that Elon Musk has bought it is because he will do fact checks, actual fact checks, unlike the ones on Facebook sometimes, like during the COVID era. They say, oh, this didn't work, or, you got to get the vaccine. Vaccines are safe and effective. Well, we now see people who are dropping dead from them and getting side effects and things like that. Myocarditis. Donald Trump was talking about the automobile manufacturing industry and potential economic turmoil, not political violence, according to this community notes here. So that right there, again, debunking the mainstream media in real time is what X is doing. This is why the media and everybody slams Elon Musk right now. Here's a video of former White House press secretary Jen Psaki on her show on MSNBC. Again, another fake news outlet, propagandist media. She has a guest on here, Biden communications director Michael Tyler. He goes on her show to spew more disinformation, talks about how Trump's bloodbath remark was an endorsement of political violence. Tyler then backs up this hoax with the hoax that Trump called Nazis very fine people, which we just debunked for a second ago for you here. So let's listen to what these two morons have to say.
What I heard was a continuation of the same rhetoric, the same endorsement of political violence that we've seen from Donald Trump for years, as you pointed out. It goes even farther back, right? This is the same guy who, after Nazis marched on Charlottesville and killed a woman, said there were very fine people on both sides. What I heard was a continuation of...
This is what they do. This is what they do. They take something, twist the narrative, and they twist the words or edit it out, and then they run it as fact. MSNBC, CNN are some of the worst offenders of this. NBC in general. Here's CNN. Nancy Pelosi. They trot out Nancy Pelosi out here to, again, push the bloodbath hoax. They don't even mention the fact that he's talking about the automobile industry. Here's what, crazy, lushy Nancy Pelosi had to say.
He's even predicting a bloodbath. What does that mean? He's going to exact a bloodbath? There's something wrong here. How respectful I am of the American people and their goodness.
Yeah, okay.
But how much more do they have to see from him to understand that this isn't what our country is about? Praising Hitler, praising the Russians. Honestly, condemning our soldiers for losing or dying in war, or being captured in war. It said, what's wrong with Russia? They defeated Hitler. What about the millions of Americans who risked or gave their lives? What about him saying that soldiers buried in Europe, he didn't want to visit them because they were losers?
Again, she's pushing false narratives here. She's lying. I mean, this is not hard to find, people, if you just look into it a little further, okay? Trump, he praises Russia and Hitler. Calling Putin or Hitler smart does not equate to praise. It was a fact that Hitler was a smart guy. It's a fact that Putin is a smart guy. That does not mean he agrees with them. Okay, there's a difference. But again, they push this as if it's fact. That's not what he said. And she knows damn well that's not what he says. Especially with the blood. What does the bloodbath thing mean? She knows exactly what he meant. But they're doing this for political gain and power. Okay, this is not hard, guys. I mean, losers and suckers thing we went over as well. I just showed you why the very fine people hoax is wrong. Okay? But they're acting as if this is all 100% fact. And there are sheep out there who 100% believe it. Here's another one. Joe Scarborough, who hosts a show on MSNBC himself, deletes this X post that he posted after the bloodbath speech, supposedly. Donald Trump's America, and he is proud of it. Promised another bloodbath if he loses again. This guy hosts a show on MSNBC. And Elon Musk called him out on it. January 6th was not a bloodbath by any definition, and Trump was referring to job losses in the auto industry when he used that word. Your post is extremely misleading. And of course, Joe Scarborough, being the coward that he is, deleted the post because he didn't want the backlash. Guys, I keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. Here's another one. Well, this is actually a kind of a fact check here. NBC News and other news media are doing the bloodbath hoax, taking Trump out of context. Trump was clearly referring to the auto industry, imports, and economic issues. Look, if you look up in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the term bloodbath, by the way, it says a great slaughter, a notable, fierce, violent, or destructive contest or struggle, or, quote, a major economic disaster. So Trump was using the term 1,000% correctly. But again, the media is losing their absolute minds over this. And as they do with everything Trump says when he says nothing wrong. Okay. And as a matter of fact, it's so ridiculous. The mainstream media uses the term bloodbath all the time. This comes from our friend Benny Johnson. Let's check this out. MSNBC Rachel Maddow, another psycho.
But as Politico.com reports tonight on the, quote, bloodbath at the RNC,
Headlines calling it a, quote, bloodbath.
Be a bloodbath. Not only is it going to be a bloodbath, but after they leave New Hampshire, it's a bloodbath on her home turf. That's really tough. Trump has left a lot of corpses in his wake. I mean, we can count the bodies
as part of the, quote, MAGA drive to take over Maricopa County. And the headline refers to it as an impending bloodbath.
Columnist Charles Blow has a new piece for the New York Times entitled A Biden Bloodbath.
2018 midterms, you can bet that they 100% are fearing a slaughter. In fact, the word bloodbath and massacre come up frequently.
The Republican Party will be destroyed. It's going to be a bloodbath.
There's going to be a bloodbath one way or the other.
Bloodbath for Bernie Sanders.
It's been a bloodbath there.
So they can use the term.
Bloodbath.
Head off a bloodbath in next year's crucial midterm.
Off-year elections are often a bloodbath.
This week's bloodbath for Democrats.
A bloodbath at the ballot box.
I guess all these people are dictators, huh?
They'll talk about a bloodbath.
It's a bloodbath. I have to talk about you. And
It's going to be a bloodbath all day long.
Is in for a bloodbath.
Hasn't been a bloodbath on the way down. Donald Trump bloodbath. Be a bloodbath.
Predicted to be a bloodbath. May not be the bloodbath.
It would be a bloodbath.
More of
Okay, you get the point. The media use the term over and over and over and over again. But when Donald Trump says it, he's Hitler. Okay, this is insane. Okay, wake up, everybody. The Democrats are playing some of you like a fiddle. And this is partially why I'm going to be doing some of these videos, because I'm tired of seeing good people absolutely deceived. And I know it's hard for people to actually admit that, but they are. But yet, spare me the crocodile tears and the, oh no, what's going to happen if Trump's reelected? Oh my God. When you guys have been perpetuating actual political violence for years. The Democrats and the left have been perpetuating violence. They say, oh, well, Donald Trump on January 6th, he said, you got to fight like hell. Oh my God, how could he dare say that? How many times have you heard a politician say we're going to fight like hell? But they weren't, inciting an insurrection. Not to mention that Donald Trump literally tweeted out, which was deleted, peacefully and patriotically. Well, he said that at a speech, peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Then he tweeted around 3:00, we're the party of law and order. Please be peaceful. Do not, do this. They deleted all that stuff. Why? So they can paint him as what they want to paint him as. Here's a compilation, which I'm going to play the whole thing on this one. So strap in. This is Democrats pushing political violence when they don't get their way. This is when Donald Trump was president for the most part, especially during the summer of 2020 after George Floyd died, which was another hoax, by the way. George Floyd would have died from fentanyl overdose no matter what happened with the cops. Not saying the cop maybe should have put his knee on the back, but at the same time, he was probably going to die whether or not that cop got involved anyway. So again, another hoax that they tried to push a race war basically over. So anyway, here's some Democrats, calling for political violence and real bloodbath behavior. Here we go.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about
in
your
the
dad's
documents or founding
immigration
documents?
practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
Biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
This guy.
I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. Punch some people in the face.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
Guys,
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day.
and that was Kamala Harris, talking about the rioters and the protesters after the George Floyd incident in 2020. Guys, the left and the Democrats are unhinged. They call Republicans and MAGA supporters unhinged, insurrectionists, domestic terrorists. But I just showed you a 2-minute video of people in Hollywood, from Johnny Depp, Robert De Niro, Madonna, Snoop Dogg, Kathy Griffin, holding up a bloody severed head of Donald Trump. And we're the unhinged domestic terrorists. The right, huh? These are our leaders, our celebrities, our politicians on the left. When they want to talk, Joe Biden loves to end his State of the Union speech. You can't only be happy when you win. These are the Democrats who are unhappy when they don't win. Okay? They denied elections for years. For years. I can pull up compilations of that as well, but we won't do that right now. But this is the problem we have here. They love to say the right is evil. When the left are doing the thing that's most notorious about the left is they like to blame the right for the exact same things that they're doing. But don't look at us. Keep it's like sleight of hand. I'm going to do something over here, but I'm going to keep you focused over here. Okay? That's what the left does. That's what the media does. Here's Vivek Ramaswamy, who I hope will become the vice presidential nominee for Donald Trump, or the candidate, or whatever, his running mate. He was on X and said the first mainstream media outlet to look at its own audience in the eye and earnestly say, "I'm sorry we've systematically lied to you about Russia collusion, COVID, Jussie Smollett, which was another hoax, January 6th, etc. Here's why it happened, and here's how we'll fix it." That media outlet will re-earn the audience trust and dominate its competition, but don't hold your breath. He's 1,000% correct. Because the most of the people in the American public do not trust the media anymore. And this is exactly why. Everything I've just showed you. His first commenter even posted something like this. This is exactly what happens, okay? They'll show you partially what he said. It's insane, everybody. if you're believing anything from the news at this point, and sometimes that includes Fox as well, okay? Let's be fair. There's sometimes that even Fox sometimes don't even fully back, Trump or anything like that. They'll sometimes be a little skittish and sometimes won't be telling you the whole honest truth either. The mainstream media is a plague. It needs to be just torn down. So when Trump says fake news, this is what he means, and he's 1,000% accurate. Okay? Elon Musk got him even on the fun on the meme category here, talking about how it's easy to tell who NPCs are today, which are non-playable characters who are just walking around absorbing this disinformation and are acting like it's fact without looking into anything further, just as I've showed you here, okay? Guys, look, I'm not trying to cause controversy. I'm not trying to tell you, how to think or anything like that. I just feel like people need to open their eyes a little bit. Consider other things are true than what you've been told. If you're watching certain people that are just perpetuating this nonsense, they're going to lie to you. Okay? You can't trust them. I mean, I know everybody's not a Bible-believing Christian, as I am. But in the end days, the Bible talks about how there will be many who are deceived. I used to wonder how the Antichrist was going to do that. I do not worry, or I do not wonder that anymore. It is blatantly clear how he will do that. It's already happening. Maybe not by the Antichrist himself, but the spirit of the Antichrist is afoot and it is everywhere, and he's not even hiding anymore. So, look, I'm not trying to depress you. I'm not trying to bring you down. I'm just trying to show you factually that this happens all the time. And if you've not, the movie The Matrix, like I've always said, is beyond its time because it's a movie talking about how certain people are plugged in and don't want to hear the truth about the real world. And they want to continue to take that blue pill, continue to stick their head in the sand and act like what some people who they call conspiracy theorists are saying is not actually happening. It's happening. And this video, if you've stuck through this entire thing, is a giant red pill for you to pull you out of the matrix, to unplug you, to try to get you to open your eyes to the objective truth that is out there. Okay. And I hope it's done some good. I hope that maybe I'll get a little better at these as well. But I hope I've at least tried to give you something to think about and something to marinate on. Because if we all start and continue to believe just stuff that they're throwing at us, anytime you hear Joe Biden talk about suckers and losers, anytime you hear him talk about, very fine people on both sides, every time you hear a Democrat or Joe Biden talk about the bloodbath, he's going to have a bloodbath, or he's poisoning the blood, blah, 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 the immigrants are poisoning the blood. That's, again, anytime you hear them perpetuate this nonsense, January 6th was an insurrection. It wasn't. It was a riot that got out of control, yes. But there's a lot of things that our government tells us is fact that is not. All right, I'll get out of here, guys. But thank you for watching. I hope you guys will consider subscribing to this channel. I hope you guys will like this video and comment below if you do want to have a civil conversation. Go right ahead and do that. I welcome it with open arms. But again, you get out of control, I'm going to block you. All right, take care, everybody. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care and God bless.